Greetings everyone. Today we want to go over the procedure of installing PDF-to-ID, the PDF-to-InDesign conversion technology from Recosoft. PDF-to-ID is a plugin for InDesign, but it's important to understand that PDF-to-ID comes packaged in an installer and you must use the installer no matter what. I'm demoing this on the Mac, but the process for Windows is essentially the same. So here on the desktop, I have the PDF-to-ID installer. But before we double click to run the installer, we need to make sure that InDesign is not running. Otherwise, the PDF-to-ID installer will not proceed with the installation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click here and the installer starts running. Now we get this welcome screen initially, so we're going to click continue. Then we get the README screen, which contains important last-minute and up-to-date information. Again, we just click continue here. Next, we get to the license agreement screen. Please make sure to read this as it clearly explains the licensing terms. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to click OK and proceed ahead. So I'm just going to click continue here and click the agree button and say I've read the license agreement and proceed ahead. Now we have to enter the username, company name, and serial code. So I'm going to enter Recosoft over here and Recosoft again. If you don't have a company name, just enter your own name and that'll be fine. And I'm going to enter the serial code and say continue. Now we get to the screen that asks you to choose or locate where InDesign is installed. This is very important, otherwise PDF-to-ID will not install correctly. So we click choose here and we navigate to the folder where, or to the directory that InDesign is installed, where InDesign is installed. And in this case, so I have Adobe InDesign CC. I'm going to install PDF-to-ID against InDesign CC. So I'm going to choose the Adobe InDesign CC folder. That's all I have to do, and click open up here. At this point in time, PDF-to-ID will, the PDF-to-ID installer will realize that you've chosen the Adobe InDesign folder, and it'll validate it. And it shows the exact path over here. Now, once we've done this, we can just click continue again. And it'll inform us the amount of disk space it's going to take and occupy. So we just say click install and it'll ask you to enter your password and it'll start installing the software and we're done. So the installation is now over and we just say close and we can fire up InDesign. So let's just go and fire up InDesign. Once we fire up InDesign, we should see a Recosoft menu and the PDF-to-ID convert PDF/XPS command. Let's just verify that it's there. As InDesign is firing up. And InDesign takes a little time, but it should start up anytime now. So here we go. It's really important to understand that you must install PDF-to-ID from the main user account. You can run it from any ordinary account, but you must install it from the main admin account, basically. So here we have the Recosoft menu, and we have the PDF-to-ID convert PDF/XPS file command. So we can start converting PDFs and Illustrator files and Windows XPS files to to InDesign format. So now PDF-to-ID also creates a folder called PDF-to-ID version 4.0 inside your applications folder, and it installs the InDesign plugin. Now please don't move or modify any of these folders, as it's important that the components reside in the proper place, otherwise PDF-to-ID will not function. To convert a PDF file, we simply select the PDF-to-ID convert PDF/XPS file command. A window appears and we get to select a PDF or XPS file to convert. So let's just select a file to convert. Select this file over here, then click Open. PDF-to-ID first inspects the file you're trying to convert, and it finds any fonts that were used in the PDF that couldn't match against what you have in your system. It provides this little tip over here. Let's just click OK at present to dismiss it. The main PDF-to-ID options window appears now. You can set a lot of options here, and you can fine-tune your conversions and tailor your workflow using the PDF-to-ID options window. But in most cases, the default settings simply work. Now, if you remember, PDF-to-ID initially popped up a little tip with respect to fonts that it couldn't match. To achieve the best conversion, you want to substitute fonts that couldn't be matched. So let's just go to the font substitution panel, and you get to choose the fonts that weren't matched. Now, as I've already matched my fonts, PDF-to-ID remembers all the substitutions that I've made, and it stores them into a library called a typeface library. That way, you don't have to repeat any of these substitutions again. So let's just click OK to convert the file. And let's observe the converted result against the original PDF file. Now notice this is a 15 or 14 page PDF file, and it's converting extremely fast using PDF-to-ID version 4.0, and it's actually just converted the file. Let's compare this with the original Adobe PDF file. So here's the PDF file that it converted. You notice that the layout has been well preserved. You also notice that paragraphs are formed right over there. These are paragraphs are formed. Frames are linked over there. You also notice that images and vector graphics are all native InDesign elements. So we have an image over here. It's a native InDesign element. We have vector graphics here. These are all native InDesign elements right over there. So you can pretty much do anything you want to. Let's just scroll down a few more pages and observe the formatting accuracy. Again, let's just scroll down this document over here and let's compare it. The layout is, again, you notice that it's very well preserved. You'll also notice that PDF-to-ID preserves properties such as clipping path. There's a clipping path actually applied to this image right there, and PDF-to-ID actually preserved it. And text over here, which are next to each other, these are linked. So PDF-to-ID goes to this extent of linking text frames across columns. Checking the links panel, we notice that the image resolutions, so let's just grow this a little bit, have been maintained, and so are the color spaces. You also notice that PDF-to-ID has done an extremely good job in preserving the layout, so that you have to tweak the document very little. Let's just check one more thing using InDesign. Let's check the interactive properties, but basically the hyperlinks. And you'll notice that PDF-to-ID went and recovered the hyperlinks. And if there were bookmarks, it would recover the bookmarks also. All of this automatically. So PDF-to-ID version 4.0 now supports InDesign Creative Cloud, enabling you to edit the contents of a PDF file in InDesign easily, allowing you to automate your workflow and enhancing productivity. PDF-to-ID has been engineered and developed by Recosoft. For more information, please visit us at www.recosoft.com. That's www.recosoft.com. Thank you.